with astral projection, sometimes people think, or it can feel like there's like hundreds of methods out there. And it's usually just three main methods that everybody's talking about. And then there's multiple techniques that would go inside of these different three methods. And because there's going to be so many details to how you perform these methods, right? And so with the indirect method, which you have in the free Soul Guides community, that one is essentially a method that you learn how to have a lucid dream and how to then transition from that lucid dream into an astral projection. And this method, I would say, it's actually, let me just go through all three first, and we can dive into them a little bit later. But essentially, this method, it's for people that are able to have dreams and lucid dreams. When you start the course in the free, you will see that your dreams will start to appear more and more, because as soon as you start writing your dream journal, as soon as you start becoming more of a sort of participant in this practice of dreaming, you will come back with so many more dreams in the morning. But you have to make sure to be consistent with your dream journal. I actually found a really good app the other day that helps you to just you can record your voice, and the app will just transcribe everything you say, and also interpret what your dream may have been about, which is kind of helpful, because a lot of times it feels like, what's the point to track this dream anyway, because it's just a bunch of random stuff that happened that has no meaning. But actually it does have a meaning. It's always like this subconscious meaning into the dream that is connected to how you feel with on a deeper level. And sometimes we overlook how we really feel inside. We might just get so busy with what we're doing on the outside that we don't pay attention with how we really feel about certain things. And actually deciphering the dreams that we have can actually really, really help us with our spiritual growth, our personal growth. And I find that to be very helpful. And the indirect method is all about being a participant and being able to write in your dream journal, so that you can remember your dreams, you can have more dreams, and then eventually you become more lucid in your dreams, because you have made that connection between the dream world and your wakeful world. And then we have the semi-indirect method, which is what we do in the premium as well. This is something that is a method that we do upon awakening from sleep. This is essentially, I like to explain it as, the graphic I have here on my screen, shows you the different states. You have up here, you have the beta frequency. It's when you're fully awake, and then all the way down to delta. This is when you're asleep. And the state that we're trying to target is the theta state, which is just above the delta. That's where we're trying to get. And we're trying to get there with some level of consciousness, or some level of conscious awareness, because otherwise we will not be able to take any action when we get there. And with the semi-indirect method, our goal is to be asleep, go to sleep, and then wake up, and then trying to target this specific state. So we come out of sleep and we target that state. And it can be quite easy to get into that state, because you are already very close to it. When you wake up, you're going to most likely be somewhere around here. And so with that method, it can be very easy for some people. We're going to talk about the differences for some people. For some people, it can be very easy to come out of sleep and then perform some techniques, and then from there just project, And it can be quite instant as well, and it can be quite a fast method to learn. I mean, this is the method that we've had many students have their first experience on their first attempt with this method overall, because it's like, you're already so relaxed. You don't have to, put your body to sleep, keep your mind awake, like all of that stuff that is necessary with the next method. You don't really have to do that. But then the next method, which is direct method, is all about starting from being awake and then meditating yourself deeply all the way until you get into that state, and then project from there. So we're just approaching it in different ways, but it's the same state that we're targeting with both the semi-direct method and the direct method. Now, most of the techniques and stuff that you find online would usually be about the direct method, would usually be about visualizing this, visualizing that, but both of them are very, very connected. The things that you will do to make the direct method work, it will be useful for the semi-direct method as well. and vice versa. So you don't want to see them as completely separate. They're just different ways of getting to the desired state. Well, the indirect method, the first one, this is more something that you don't have as much control over. It's something that you have to rely on becoming aware in a dream, and then noticing that you're in a dream, and then be able to become lucid, and then transition from that lucid dream into an astral projection if you want to, because also lucid dreams are very powerful. It's a very powerful tool to use. Okay, so then let's talk about light sleepers and deep sleepers. And I'm curious, which one are you? Which one do you think you are? Put comment in the chat. Are you a light sleeper, or are you a deep sleeper? I'm laughing because I'm seeing some of the comments in the in the comments. This is not a cult. That's funny. Light sleeper. I see light sleepers here. Deep sleeper. Deep sleeper. Light. Okay. A lot of light sleepers. Deep. Barely a sleeper. Okay. This is funny. Deep sleeper, deep sleeper. Okay, so yeah, everybody's going to be different on different sides. Now, how do you know if you're a light sleeper or a deep sleeper when it comes to this practice? Because we can talk about what a light sleeper is in other contexts, but when it comes to this practice specifically, when I talk about a light sleeper, or when I say a deep sleeper or a light sleeper, what I'm looking at is, are you someone that when you go to sleep at night, you automatically, wake up multiple times during the night? Maybe to just toss and turn to the side. Maybe you go to the bathroom. It's just for light sleepers, this is what they will do. They will wake up multiple times during the night, maybe 3 times, maybe I would say more than one. If you just wake up once to go to the bathroom, that's not necessarily a light sleeper. But someone that wakes up more than once, that will be a light sleeper. So it's not so much necessarily about falling asleep, because even deep sleepers can have a hard time falling asleep. It's more about, once you're asleep, are you sleeping in a very kind of light sleep, where you're kind of like I would say, let's say higher delta frequencies, around maybe even close to theta, or are you like very deep delta, where you're just like, you're so deep, you just don't wake up for a long time? So that's kind of how you want to look at it. That's how you know if you're a light sleeper or a deep sleeper. And then, let's see here. It's gonna go sound. Let's see what's next. Okay, that's next. Best to succeed, play with you. My notes here. Okay, right. So going back to the methods, which one would be the best one for you? Which one of these methods would be the best one for you? If you're a light sleeper, if you're a deep sleeper, and how does it work? And when is which method useful for? So the indirect method overall, I would say this is not a method that you can rely on having out-of-body experiences every single day that you want, on demand. The indirect method is something that you do as a way to build up your awareness muscles. So in order for you to be able to have more awareness in your experiences when you actually have an out-of-body experience, or if you have a lucid dream or a dream, like whenever you have a non-physical experience, let's just call them that, right? You will have much more clarity and awareness and understanding of what's happening, or if it's happening to you, especially with dreams, if you've done a lot of indirect method practice. So if you've done your dream journal a lot, if you check your reality all the time, if you're skeptic about whether or not you're having a dream, and you look at your hands, you count your fingers, like if you do all of this work, that method in its own might not give you a lot of experiences. You might have one here and there, but that method will help you when it comes to the other two, the more powerful one, the semi-indirect method and the direct method, which we learn in the premium community. These two methods are the ones that you can rely on. These are the ones that you can actually learn exactly how to do them step by step. And then when you have an experience, you can have them on a regular basis, and you can have them on demand. And then the indirect method will help you to have more awareness. So you can see the indirect method a bit like a practice of practicing your awareness, a bit like an athlete that goes to the gym to get muscles, to get strong, but then they use that strength in order to do another sport. And so that's kind of how you will use the indirect method in that way, as well as meditation as well. Like daily meditation, we would use that for in the same kind of way. It will help us to prepare us for when we're doing the other methods. Because what can happen, and this happened to me so many times, I'm guilty of this, is that I would practice the direct method, let's say, and I'm lying there and I'm like getting into the right state, and I'm like it's going well, and then suddenly I start dreaming. I start dreaming that I'm practicing in a sofa, maybe at a party somewhere, or somewhere completely different. And there's like people in the background and making noises, and I'm lying there thinking, oh no, why are these people having a party right now? I'm trying to meditate. I'm really trying to focus on this. And so in that moment, I'm not catching the fact that that's not real. That's just a dream content. I'm not catching that because I'm so lost in it. Now, if I was doing a lot of work with the indirect method, and I was practicing my reality checks and dream journal, then I will be able to be like, oh, wait a second, I'm not at a party. I'm in my room practicing. So this must mean that I'm having non-physical experiences right now. I can now exit my body. I can now travel. And so you will miss out on many good opportunities because you will fall into a dream if you don't practice the indirect method. Now, when it comes to having, like I said, like having direct experiences, being able to have them on a regular basis, even reach things like 100% success rate, then we're looking at the semi-indirect method and the direct method. And what I've seen is that if you are a light sleeper, you're going to do quite well with the semi-indirect method and the direct method, actually. But the semi-indirect method is something that works for you, because what happens is, as a light sleeper, when you fall asleep, so you fall asleep, boom, you're asleep, and then you wake up. When you wake up, you're going to have much more awareness in order to do these techniques than a deep sleeper. A deep sleeper will be maybe waking up a little bit and then dipping down into sleep again and kind of losing track of what just happened. Versus a light sleeper can wake up and have more conscious awareness in that wake up phase. Now, that's not to say that deep sleepers cannot do the indirect method, because I am definitely a deep sleeper and I am able to do the semi-indirect method. All right, talking about that. The semi-indirect method is something that you can definitely do as a deep sleeper, but it's usually can be a bit harder because of the fact that you're so deep when you're sleeping that when you wake up, you're just unable to have conscious control. Now, what we've done in the program, in the premium, is that I've created these soundtracks that helps you, so that when you, first of all, you go to sleep with these soundtracks, and the soundtracks then has my voice that wakes you up and tells you what you need to do. So even if you're coming into that state and you're a bit drowsy, you can then realize what you need to do because you hear my voice telling you what to do, and you have that, you have a bit of awareness at that point that you can perform those techniques, and then you can project. So that's so helpful, because without the soundtracks, you're just going to wake up and you're going to fall back asleep again. It's very hard to actually put some sort of have some control over that state when you wake up. So the semi-indirect method, like I said, a bit a bit easier for light sleepers, can be a bit more tricky for deep sleepers. And then the direct method. This one is definitely much easier for a deep sleeper because you start when you're awake. You're not asleep, you're awake, and then you go down, down, down into, you relaxing, get all the way down. And you can, a lot of times deep sleepers will probably pass this state and they will go into delta and they'll fall asleep. But you have way more conscious awareness with you because you've been meditating and meditating and meditating and having that intention to have an out-of-body experience, and like you've really been probing your subconscious mind so much that by the time you fall asleep, or if you fall asleep, you're going to come back up again, or when you go to sleep is going to be a much lighter sleep than you would normally have. And so then for deep sleepers, this method is usually much easier to achieve. And again, we have soundtracks that even if you do fall asleep, which happens a lot, that you fall asleep, the soundtrack has cues that wake you back up. And so depending on whether or not you're a light sleeper or a deep sleeper, you want to look at these methods and sort of experiment with them and see which one might be better for you because you're a light sleeper or a deep sleeper. And it's going to have a massive impact on the practice. Some people just overlook this, but it has a massive impact. So that's why astral projection is not something that is going to be the same across the board. Like everybody has to do it the same way. I would say everybody has to do it slightly different depending on their personality, the way that they're sleeping, their sleep schedule, and so many other details about their life. And that really brings me to, first of all, to sleep hygiene. Sleep hygiene, this is going to affect the practice. Probably is one of the biggest ones. Like if you have a good sleep hygiene, expect to have way more awareness when you get into this lower brainwave state than if you are terrible sleep hygiene. You go to sleep super late, you watch movies all night, you eat late, you have your sleep schedule is all over the place, and you're tired each day. Maybe you sleep too little. You have work during the morning. You just get maybe 5 hours sleep, and then you're trying to astral project on top of that. That can be very difficult. So sleep hygiene is super important. It's the one thing that's going to get you, especially as a deep sleeper, it's going to give you much more power, awareness power, let's say, when you are doing the practice and you get into these deeper states, so that you don't lose yourself, that you get into deep sleep and then game over. So good sleep hygiene is like something like going to sleep, if you can, at the same time every night, early, 10, 9, 10, latest 11, I would say. And trying to be consistent with that schedule, that you go to sleep at that time and then you wake up to the practice at a specific time. Like when you create that sort of schedule, you're going to program your circadian rhythms for the practice, and then you're going to have much more success, and it's going to feel much more effortlessly because it's kind of like it feels much more natural now. You might even be someone that wakes up naturally in the morning, maybe after a few hours of sleep. Myself included, I do that. So for me, like I would go to sleep at night, maybe at 11, and then I'll wake up naturally around 5 a.m. or 6 a.m. to go to the bathroom. And at that point, for me, it's a perfect time to practice. And so let's talk about times, because a lot of times I see a lot of people, the mistake they make, especially beginners, is that they try to do this practice at night before going to sleep. And although that's a nice time to go to sleep and have an astral projection, logically speaking, the problem is that when you go to sleep at night, you start here, you're awake, you go to sleep, you're going to fall straight into delta. So every night when you go to sleep, the first thing that happens, you're going to go into delta, and you're going to be oscillating between these lower frequencies. You're going to be in delta brainwave state for about 4 cycles at night. And so if you're trying to practice at that time where you naturally go into delta so deep, you will probably go into delta, because that's how you program yourself every night. Every night you've been telling yourself, okay, I'm going to sleep now. I'm going to sleep now. You've been doing that for years. And then suddenly you're saying, all right, now I'm not going to sleep. I'm going to do this astral projection thing. It's kind of hard to recondition yourself from what you've been doing for such a long time to now go into doing this. And I kind of discourage it because I think it's important. It's really important to have the first few hours of sleep to rejuvenate your body, to go through that healing phase that you do naturally at night. So the first few hours, you don't really want to mess with them. You just want to sleep. Just get a proper deep sleep done. All the sleep cycles done. Sleep through the whole thing. And then you want to wake up in the early morning, and that's when you want to do the practice. Either in the early morning or in the afternoon, afternoon, whenever. Because you're going to be in a much lighter sleep, and it's going to be easier to not fall into this deep sleep and kind of disappear. However, this is another thing. If you are a light sleeper, that might not be the case. For a light sleeper, maybe doing it at night could work. Maybe that works very well. So I don't want to discourage anybody from trying at night and saying, no, only in the morning, only afternoon. This practice is definitely something you want to just experiment with. Try it. See what happens if you do it at night. See what happens if you do it in the morning. See what happens if you do it in the afternoon. What's going to happen? You're just going to find out what's going to happen. You're going to experiment. This is how we need to think about it, that we are experimenting because you don't really know how it is going to be for you until you actually experiment with it. There are some general things that we can say that this is true across the board, like sleep hygiene, for example, important for everybody. But then there are some things that it's going to be down to the individual. So it's important to just experiment with different times. And then I also want to talk about the sound technology. So I know a lot of people are usually on YouTube, finding a track on YouTube, and they're playing the theta, theta frequency soundtrack, or maybe delta or something like that, and then mixed results. Now, when it comes to the fact that we are different, that some people are light sleepers and some people are deep sleepers, do you think that the same frequency is going to work for everybody? Well, I found that it's not the case. The truth is, because some people are deep sleepers and some people are light sleepers, you're going to have to use different frequencies because of that. And so in our premium community, we've solved this issue by providing deep sleepers and light sleepers with different frequencies. So someone that's a light sleeper, well, their problem is that they're just, let's just focus on, for example, the direct method now. So let's say you're doing the direct method and using a binaural beat. If you're a light sleeper, then what can happen to you is that you might hover around here and you're trying to get deeper, but it's just kind of difficult. And if you're playing the theta frequency, that might not just get you deep enough. It also important to mention is that theta is not just one frequency. It's a range of multiple frequency. And because of that, if you're a light sleeper, you're going to benefit from listening to a much lower theta frequency soundtrack than if you're a deep sleeper, for example. So if you're a deep sleeper, you want the opposite. You want to listen to a much higher frequency theta, or maybe even alpha. It's really about experimentation, because just because you're playing a specific frequency doesn't mean that your brain is going to automatically stabilize itself in that frequency and keep it. Ideally, that's what it's supposed to be like. That's what it's supposed to do. But in reality, we actually offset that frequency depending on if you're a light sleeper or a deep sleeper. And so in order to actually get into the right state, we have to kind of use technology to offset that initial issue that you're a light sleeper or a deep sleeper. And this is something that we've done with all our soundtracks. Even with the semi-indirect method soundtracks, we have different frequencies for deep sleepers and light sleepers, and also with direct method. And then another thing that I was talking about before is the wake up cues. And this is not something you want to overlook, because wake up cues is going to can save you a lot of practices. Because let's face it, a lot of times you probably experienced, if you practice this many times, you probably experienced that you've practiced and then you've just passed that state and you just fell asleep and you wake up a few hours later like, Whoa, what happened? Oh shit, I was practicing, and damn it, didn't work again. And that's because maybe you listen to a soundtrack that was just kind of this ongoing binaural beats or music in the background. Some people listen to just like a frequency like zzzz. But what happens if you fall asleep? Well, you fall asleep and then it's game over. So in the soundtracks that we've created, we have these wake up cues that brings you back up in awareness in case you fall asleep, or in case you just lose focus. You maybe start dreaming away, doing something else, and then the soundtrack brings you back up in awareness. Together with vocal guidance, so it tells you what to do, all the steps. Is sound technology, I would say, is the reason I managed to get my success rate to a very high level. Without the soundtrack, personally, because I'm a deep sleeper, I lose myself so often in sleep. I just kind of lose that awareness. I cannot stay on the right frequency in the theta brainwave state too long, because I just start kind of drifting away. And the sound technology really helps me. And it's because I don't see myself as someone that's like naturally gifted at this, that was able to do this from childhood. I wasn't, I had to really learn this and practice this, and not just practice this, but create technology that would help me, because I'm a bit disabled in this way with this, because I'm a deep sleeper and I don't have awareness in that state. I had to create crutches that can help me not only get into that state, but also stabilize in that state. And this is the technology that then I provided for our students in the premium community, so that they can actually use them to help them get into that state. Now, of course, if you're someone that wants to surpass soundtracks at some point and just want to do it on the fly. I know I had a student that was like, you know what? I'm doing it so easily now. I just want to do it when I'm in the car and I'm just sitting in the car on the bus and I'm just like on my way somewhere. I just want to be able to do it without any soundtracks, just sit there and just get out about it. I'm like, cool. That's awesome. That's really a goal to achieve. But until you get there, I think having soundtracks is really going to help you to actually get into that state and also stay in that state. And then another thing that I don't want to overlook is energy work. And this is something that isn't discussed so much, I think, in most places, but energy work is super key to this practice, because without energy, you're not going to be able to project. And so a simple energy work exercise, there's multiple ones, but one of the ones that I would really recommend for when you actually do the practice, when you start let's say the direct method, and you're on your way to relax and you're doing all this different preparation work, and your energy work needs to be a part of that. And the energy work that we're using and that you can use as well is it's very simple. You just have to use your creative imagination, which is, people overlook imagination. Imagination is the way you program the field, the way you communicate with the quantum realms, the way you communicate with consciousness in general. So imagination is so important. So in your imagination, you're going to be lying there, and you're going to be, and you can, if you want, you can close your eyes. You can imagine this right now. You're going to be essentially drawing energy to you, and it doesn't matter how you do it. You can imagine energy coming from the bottom up, from the top down, from any direction. I like to imagine that there is energy that's coming to me in every cell of my body, or let's say not the body, but the energy body, because that's really what it is. Like, you're energizing your energy body. So you're imagining yourself gathering energy from all around you. You can also imagine that there's like the sun, there's like sunlight beaming onto you from the sky, and you can sort of feel these warm rays, and the rays is energizing you with this very powerful light energy, and you just keep drawing that energy into you, and you use your breath as well to like inhale the energy. You just keep pulling energy from outside into you. And like I said, it doesn't matter from where. It just, the more it feels like a powerful light source, like the sun, for example, could be powerful, or maybe the universe, or maybe God, whatever you feel is like has a powerful energy for you. You want to imagine that energy being drawn into you and kind of lighting you up from within. And you want to do that for at least 5 minutes, just ongoing breathing in and gathering energy. That energy then is going to help you when you exit the body to actually have an exit, to have it, to get those vibrations going, and to be able to have that projection, and also to sustain that projection, so that when you're out, you're not just kind of like, whoa, what's happening? Whoa, and you're back in like, whoa, shit, I had an out of body experience. Oh fuck, I'm back. Damn. Like that. Like you energize yourself so that you can actually stay out there for much longer with more clarity. Whew. Okay. So let's see what we have next here. I think I covered most things. And I wonder if there's any questions at this point for anything that I've said. You can go ahead and type that in the comments. Should we try all of them though? So I got a comment here. Should we try all of the methods? And the answer is yes, because that's the only way you're going to find out which one works the best for you. It's going through all of them, and it's a fun process. And to be honest, they're all connected. They're not separate. Because even when you're doing the direct method, let's say you're a deep sleeper, and you're like, oh, I like the direct method. Well, guess what? A lot of times when you do the direct method, you will fall asleep. And then you will wake back up again, hopefully, because either you wake up back again, or the soundtrack helps you to wake back up again. In any case, when you wake back up again, what happens? Well, suddenly it's a semi-indirect method approach, because now you're coming out of sleep. And so by becoming good with the semi-indirect method, you're becoming good with the direct method. By becoming good with the direct method, becoming good with the semi-indirect method, because one of the issues with the semi-indirect method could be, for example, that you do wake up, but then you're too awake and you don't know how to fall back asleep again. Well, if you practice the direct method and you're good at it, then you've learned how to relax yourself so that you can get deeper and also fall asleep. So they're actually, both methods are really important to learn, because they complement each other. And then again, like I said before, the indirect method complements everything as well, because it builds up your awareness. What do you find to be the best indirect method for you? I have tried the semi-indirect method. Okay. Okay, so I don't see any specific questions. So that's cool. No worries. Okay. What do you find to be the best semi-indirect method? I'm not sure if I get the... Tell us about the eye mask. Okay, I can tell you about the eye mask. One sec. This is an eye mask. So it's nothing fancy, but it's a thick eye mask that we use in order to, first of all, just block out all the sound, all the light, so that you don't see anything from outside. There's no distractions. And secondary, because whenever you start seeing something, you know that it's not because there's something coming from the outside. And what can happen, which is really cool, is that you start seeing your room. You start seeing the ceiling, or wherever you're looking at, you start seeing that very clear. This is something that happened to me, my first experience ever. I start seeing the room, and I saw it as clear as I'm looking at the room with my physical eyes. And that was awesome. And I knew that I was wearing these eye mask. So I knew that, holy shit, there's no way I can see through the mask with my physical eyes. The only explanation is that I'm actually having an experience right now. And of course, and I was having an experience, but the more I became kind of excited about it, the more I start seeing that the vision I had to become blacker and blacker, almost like smoke, just kind of like smoky, and then suddenly everything was gone, and I was back into the blackness, and I had to take off my mask. And then I looked around, and everything looked exactly the same. And that was like a real mind opener, because how can you explain that physically? You know, how can you look through something like this with your physical eyes? You cannot. So we have, I think those experiences really help us to kind of, it's, there's like these different milestones with the practice that when you experience some of them, it really gives you that confidence that that this is actually possible. Because sometimes it can feel a bit far-fetched, you know, especially if you're new to this might be a bit like, whoa, okay, this, is this really true? Are people just imagining this? Are they just dreaming? I know I had those limits and beliefs when I started. And so I think it's important to be skeptical with everything. You need to, I think you need to have one foot on the ground, and not just like believe in everything. And I think the best way to actually believe in this stuff is by experiencing it firsthand. And that's what I teach, because I think this is not about believing, it's really about experiencing. And some of the signposts can be, for example, that, you know, if you look at this graphic here, some of the things that happens is up here, you know, nothing happens. You're awake, you close your eyes, you get deeper. Nothing really happens until you get somewhere around here. And so let's say this is like lower alpha brainwave state. When you get here, you'll start seeing hypnagogic images. You'll start seeing maybe like flashes of images appearing and going, but it's just very subtle. It's not like you can look at anything clearly. Everything is just kind of flashing by. And also when you get here, usually your body is very relaxed. And when you get all the way down to, yeah, let's say somewhere here, your body has fallen asleep, is no longer active. It's no longer bothering you. It doesn't itch you anymore. It doesn't tickle you anymore. And that's one of the signs. So sign number one, you're seeing hypnagogic images. Good. It means that you're, you know, somewhere around here. You're on the right track. Number two, you have your body has fallen asleep. You don't know if your hands are like this or like that. Like you don't know what your body is kind of, how your body is positioned. It just feels kind of abstract. You kind of losing awareness of the physical sensations. And also sound from outside starts to become less clear. And so this is all good, because it means that the body has shut itself down, and all your physical senses are now no more, not as active anymore. And this is where you can actually focus inward, and that's where you also use the mask. You can see what's happening inward, and you can feel what's happening, and you can hear. And then the next thing that can happen when you get all the way down into the right state, the theta state, the sweet spot we call it, this is where you can start feeling vibrations. This is where you can start hearing weird sounds, buzzing sounds, jet engines, voices, all kinds of weird things you can hear happens when you get into that state. And you can also see something, like something, maybe you just start seeing a tunnel of light that's opening up in front of you. Or maybe, you know, you start seeing a complete, you know, HD scene of people and something happening. Like those kind of clear visuals, that's a sign that you're also in that state. And so if you ever had any of those symptoms when you've been practicing, that is signs to you that, you know, you are on the right track, and you're getting closer and closer to being in the right state. And when you are in the right state, you have these full-blown vibrations and sounds, everything, that's when you can exit the body and you can start exploring, and you can have your first out-of-body experiences.